Playoff Tailgate presented by Pizza Hut, delivered by Pizza Hut. You're looking at beautiful downtown Nashville, home of country music, Music City, USA. And obviously the walking bridge that separates the area where the tragic bombing happened on Christmas Day that affected so much of the city. That's Nissan Stadium today, a site of joy and a site of escapism as the Titans get their first home playoff game since 2008. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to get you ready for today's Titans-Ravens matchup, plus everything else you'll see and what you saw yesterday. I'm not alone, though. I'm Jason Fitz, and I'm joined by Mike Golic Jr., Field Yates, and we are going to be here getting ready for it. Gentlemen, it was a triple header yesterday. My goal was to eat healthy in the new year. I will say, I overate, but at least it was all like hummus and vegetables, so maybe that counts. 9 hours of hummus?
I don't think you can actually overeat those things. I think when it's rabbit food like that, it generally just becomes bottomless.
What'd you take away from yesterday? Anything fun?
I don't know. This is not fun, actually. Wait, I'll be very grinchy here for a second. Is that a series of bad calls yesterday, and that's okay. Refs are humans. They make errors. What I was most perturbed by is that after the fact, the NFL officiating account tweeted out a video of the very controversial play at the end of Bills and Colts game in which Zach Pascal for the Colts was ruled down, even though it was clear and obvious that he had reemerged from the ground and had the ball stripped away. Now, the NFL got lucky because the Bills ended up winning that game. If they lose that game, whole different story. But the NFL Twitter account, or NFL officiating a Twitter account, put out a video, no audio, just said this play was held up because clear and obvious evidence showed that he was down. No, he wasn't. He was not clearly and obviously down. The NFL needs to, if they're going to put themselves out there through a Twitter account, hold itself to a much higher standard because fans deserve much better.
I'm all in for this sort of New Year's resolution feel. Maybe the New Year's resolution is that we should learn how to say, my bad, I made a mistake.
That works.
If the NFL officiating people would
way.
do that, it'd go a long way. All right, speaking of yesterday, let's get into the fun off the top. We're going to do it the way we can only do it on this show, and that's with the Blitz. Fields, you got a little warmed up, but what we're going to do here is we're going to throw 60 seconds on the clock and let you go with all of your hot takes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And away he go. 60 seconds. Take it, Field.
All right, so we're all talking about the incredible win for the Rams yesterday, spearheaded by a dominant defense. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, amongst the top players on that group. And the quarterback was a carousel yesterday for them between John Wolford starting, getting hurt early, and Jared Goff filling in. I want to give credit where it's due, though, because a few years ago, the Rams made a decision to go all in on a core of players. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Jared Goff, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupps, the Cooper Kupps of the world, Andrew Whitworth. All guys paid at or near the top of the market at their respective positions. It put a huge premium on scouting and developing. GM Les Need has made a ton of great picks around the margins. Not first-round picks, because the last first-round pick the Rams had, Jared Goff. Jared Goff was the last player that was selected in the first round. Les Need, his scouting staff, no surprise, someone like Brad Holmes getting GM interviews, deserve a ton of credit for finding a way to build this roster, not with the obvious resources, but rather late round picks, the waiver wire, mid-round picks. Awesome job by the Rams scouting department.
Let's quickly dive into that, Mike. I mean, I thought it was one of the most surprising outcomes yesterday. Not that the Rams beat Seattle, but that they beat Seattle the way they did. I mean, were you watching it a little surprised?
Not overly. This has always been a weird division. I think Mina Kimes, who does a great job for us and is a rabid Seahawks fan, has always said anyone in this division can beat anyone else on any given day, but you also know there's an added level of violence. And I'd say this, what we all see triggered on the Rams' defensive side of the ball comes from Aaron Donald. When you've got one force that can command so much respect, we've seen the Leonard Floyds of the world be able to enjoy a rebirth at this spot because now you know you're never going to be the one that everyone's got their sights on.
All eyes will be on Aaron Donald and his health moving forward because that Rams defense looked absolutely unbelievable. Mike, you ready to get in on the fun?
I am ready to get in on the fun,
Let's put
Jason.
60 seconds on the clock. Mike Golic Jr.'s Blitz. Away he goes.
Now, obviously, everyone was going to be focused on the end of the wild card last night on Tom Brady. Big night for him statistically in his first playoff game out of a Patriots uniform and all the things narrative-wise that mean. But I want to take the focus up front because last year, O-line, Twitter, and the people that know would tell you that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had one of the more underrated front groups in the entire league on their offensive line. This year in this playoff game, they came into focus because of some comments from Washington football team DN Chase Young. Chase Young, who said, I want Tom Brady coming off the field after their win against the Eagles. Chase Young, the number 2 overall pick. on a D-line full of top picks. And instead, Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, and the rookie himself, Tristan Wirfs, stepped up last night to be dominant, not only keeping their quarterback clean against a host of first-rounders. I understand the 3 sacks were there, but sacks are a complicated stat to judge all of this offense. We saw a wall of humanity move others, and I think I, like many others, grew to appreciate what Tristan Wirfs, especially as a rookie, was able to do protecting the future Hall of Famer Tom Brady.
Worth noting also, by the way, that it's not like Brady was just getting rid of the ball dink and dunk style. I mean, he had time to go down the field with it the whole way field. I didn't see that coming. I mean, part of the reason I thought it could be a competitive game was I thought that the Washington football team could get after Tom and make him uncomfortable. Instead, that didn't happen, and Washington had a surprising offensive night.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke, what a story that is, right? Like a year ago at this time, the dude is, I don't even know, do they have training camps in the XFL? Probably a brief one, right? Like the guy's getting fitted for pads.
You wash your own jersey there.
He's the backup quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks. He spent most of this fall studying to finish off his degree at Old Dominion, so I always say that sports are a metaphor for life, and last night was a good example. Like, if you're ever feeling like you want to give up, but you still have a dream, remind yourself if that dream is worth chasing, you will not give up. Cool story there. And the Bucs, congratulations on advancing to the divisional round for the first time in quite some time.
All right, I'd like to get in on the Blitz fun, so mostly because my last name sounds coolest with it. Fitz Blitz! All right, put 60 seconds on the clock. You're welcome, America. And away I go. All right, one of my objectives, and this might be impossible in social media, is to get everybody at some point to learn to listen without wanting to necessarily debate. I think that's more important than ever when it comes to analytics. Everybody is jumping on it without even understanding at times what it means. Let's understand that sometimes a football game's a little like a choose-your-own-adventure book when I was a kid. Turn to page 32 if you're going to go right here. We have to understand that not everything plays out in the game the same way. Just because the Colts elected not to kick a field goal at the end doesn't mean that the rest of the game would have turned out the same way. So it's unfair to say that that one decision is the reason they lost by 3 points. We have to acknowledge that strategy changes based on every single decision that's made. That being said, what's wrong with listening to the analytics and trying to understand why it's happening? I'll throw myself under the bus. I've texted Mike and other friends several times and said, I don't understand why we're not going for it or why we're punting. But what we could all afford to do is shut up and listen to people long enough to get a better understanding of analytics in every particular scenario. I feel better that I got that off my chest. Thoughts?
I will say this. If you are looking to understand it a bit better, Mina Kimes and the crew from NFL Live are going to do a great second screen experience. The Megacast on ESPN Plus today dedicated to a lot of that conversation. And there are a few people who will be able to explain this to you in a way you'll understand the way Mina Kimes is going to this afternoon.
In fact, if you're watching us in the app, remember you can authenticate. You can hang out right here. You can stay in the ESPN app to watch the game. But because of the Megacast, we have options on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus. We are going to be all over the place. In the meantime, we're going to be all over the place here for the next 25 or so minutes to get you ready for the game. Field, what do you say we get some technology and we'll let you have some fun with the touchscreen?
That's right. I've got the handy-dandy iPad ready, and Gojo and I are going to do our playoff ride or die squads. And here's what we're going to do. All right, time now for our weekly touchscreen. We're going to avoid.
That was like a face melt. That was terrifying.
That was the fourth wall. In any event, we are going to do a little bit of a different touch here. All right, you can do the ride or dies with the Mahomes and the Bradys and the Rodgers and the Jacksons, and they're all great players. We're going to sort of dig a little bit deeper here. We're going to give you one coach and 4 players. Off we go. I start with Arthur Smith, the man who has been linked to every single head coaching vacancy. I think there are 6 right now in or around the NFL. He's the Titans offensive coordinator. He's been an awesome guy for the past 2 seasons in this capacity. And one of the fun facts about Arthur Smith that everybody in the NFL loves about him is that he is part of the Smith family that runs and owns FedEx. If this guy never chose to work a day in his life, he would still be able to provide enough wealth for his family and probably several generations before him. Instead, he doesn't choose sort of like an average job, like a 9 to 5. He chooses to be a football coach, which I get it. There are plenty of accolades and a lot of fun. They also grind like crazy. Arthur Smith, a guy who has done an awesome job with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and that entire offense this season and last.
I'm going to stick with the offensive coordinators. I'm going to go Brian Daboll from the Buffalo Bills. And what we've seen since he's been there over the last few years has been something we barely ever get to see. A quarterback develop and improve accuracy that you picked in the first round. Josh Allen was given that chance, and Brian Daboll in this offense went in and gave him the things he needed to do well. And what's that culminated in this season? A Bills franchise record in points scored and doing the things modern offenses do well. Pre-snap motion, second most amount of 4 wide receiver sets in the league, and overall an ability to put Josh Allen in the position to succeed with the weapons around him. I think Brian Daboll, another one, deservedly a candidate for a lot of those head coaching vacancies you're talking about.
Let's keep things rolling. And, of course, I'm the man with the first offensive lineman off the board. His name is Dion Dawkins.
What were the chances that little old Field is going to be the first one to go with an offensive lineman when we've got an offensive lineman in the room? I'm shook. Okay, continue, Jen.
It's the snowman. It's Dion Dawkins. He's the Bills' left tackle, a guy who has such a contagious, infectious spirit about him, right? He's the kind of player that sort of sets the mood for a lot of moments in that offensive huddle, which is not something you say about every single offensive lineman. He's got soft hands as well. He caught a touchdown, beloved in Buffalo with good reason. I love myself the snowman. Snowman.
The snowman, yes. And I love that you love the bigger men involved in this conversation field. I am going to go, I've always said, defensive backs are just small offensive linemen. You got to go backwards and go against some of the best athletes on the field. I'm going to go with Tre'Davious White, going back to the Buffalo Bills. Similar formula for this team from the Kansas City Chiefs of last year. Your offense is great, the air raid Bills. So now on defense, you've got to make just enough plays. And what did we see yesterday against the Colts down the stretch? Tre'Davious White, who you paid that 4 years, $70 million to as a show of respect and an understanding of what he brings to the table, showing up big for you down the stretch. I expect him to make more of those plays, similar to Tyrann Mathieu from the Chiefs last year, the force that he was in the secondary for a team that hoisted the Lombardi.
I think it's quickly important to acknowledge you guys are going ride or die in a creative way because these are unprecedented picks. Go ahead.
Jarvis Landry for the Cleveland Browns making his NFL playoff debut tonight. This guy's missed one game in his entire career. One. It was when he was a high-risk close contact due to COVID-19 protocols a few weeks back. What an incredible moment this must be for Jarvis Landry to play in this game tonight for the Cleveland Browns. There are people that have said Jarvis Landry hasn't won a ton in his career. It's not because of Jarvis Landry. He does just about everything right for a wide receiver, plus some of the stuff that you don't expect out of a wide receiver. Hard-nosed, tough, physical blocker, reliable, consistent. Love myself some Jarvis Landry.
Listen, so does Baker Mayfield. Despite everything they've lost, they've gained so much because of him. I'm going to go now get into the beef here. Saints left tackle Teron Armstead, who was a all-pro snub coming up recently, but is a guy who, in addition to protecting the blind side of Drew Brees, protecting the blind side of Taysom Hill, protecting the blind side of Jameis Winston, you see where I'm going in the last few years. This Saints offensive line, one of the best in the league, has had to weather a host of changes and injuries at that quarterback spot with Drew Brees and is responded by being versatile, being able to protect whoever is back there at a level that now has them in position for another Lombardi. Teron's also a great ambassador in the community, is building a community center back in Illinois, wants to build another one similar to it to help the community in New Orleans. He gets it in so many ways, including the ways that keep Drew Brees upright.
Agreed on that. Let's run the hurry-up offense here. Ryan Jensen, perhaps the nastiest player in the NFL. And I mean that in a sign of respect and affection. The guy is the kind of player that you want to have on your side if you ever got into a dust-up. He's a little swampy for a center as well, which Gojo has informed me. He's about a 3-towel guy. It'll make sense if you just go back and listen to some of the broadcasts involving the Buccaneers. A tough guy, a guy who has earned his keep here.
Love the word swampy being used in all of this one. Someone markedly less swampy. Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. You look at what the Ravens have built as we have now destroyed Fitz into the laughing monster for the rest of this segment. Ravens offense went all in on Lamar Jackson, multiple tight end sets, using that versatility to help the most dynamic run game in the league. But Mark Andrews also the most potent passing threat on this team, the most potent receiving threat on this team, and going to be huge down what's hopefully the Ravens getting through that wild card hump in the playoffs.
Malcolm Jenkins does not know father time. You're not supposed to be this good, this durable, this reliable at this juncture of your career. If you go back to 2014, he's basically played 100% of the snaps for whatever defense he's been on. Most of that with Philadelphia, most recently a return to New Orleans. I love this guy. Such an iconic part of this defense, a player that you can always count on doing the exact thing that you are asking of him. Big part of the Saints' success this season.
And speaking of beating Father Time, big love to Los Angeles Rams left tackle Andrew Whitworth, who missed games down the stretch of the season with, I believe, an MCL and a PCL injury, but came back in time again at 39 years old, playing left tackle in the National Football League to start the wild card game and help this Rams offensive line go out and absolutely bludgeon the Seahawks up front in a win where their quarterback situation was a mess as well.
Yeah, he has been ridiculous in signing with the Rams after being ridiculous playing for the Bengals for a long time. Fitz, go ahead.
Are you guys done? Can I react to this?
All
right, playoff tailgate
it.
delivered by Pizza Hut. I'm getting my take in. I'm just saying, I get that you guys were going cute by not going with the big names, but we define ride or die differently. When I think ride or die, I think, who would I go into a bar with, and if it goes wrong, I might die. So I want somebody that's going to protect me, right? So I'm thinking, who's got their back up against the wall? Like Mike Vrabel, way more ride or die to me than Arthur Smith, because Vrabel's got to look at that Tennessee Titans defense that we'll get into and say, this has been an abomination. So the one thing I got to do is I got to be amazing. That's ride or die, because you'll die if it doesn't go well. Also, Khalil Mack, like the only way the Bears can win a game in this is if Khalil Mack goes out and just does lights out things. And so for me, it's ride or die for the Bears, because the only way they ride and don't die is if Khalil Mack is lights out. You guys missed the entire point on the list.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to what you just said right now.
Yeah, not going to lie. Just tuned it all out.
Hope it was good.
You know what?
Enjoyed that, Fitz.
You know what? I'm just saying, it's amazing that you found so much beef to put on that list. That's all I'm saying. Ever heard of Mahomes?
He likes the beef too, man. I'm sure he'd be the first one to tell you.
Mahomes will be all in on that. Time now for a little trivia. What are we doing now?
Yeah.
All right, let's play a little game.
Yeah, let's get into a little bit of trivia. Let's see if we can be a little smarter than we've been throughout the course of the show. Field, I think you're going to run us through some trivia here, and we're going to see how we can do with the answers. I'm not great at trivia,
Let's give it a shot here. I don't have the answer. I just have the questions. Question 1. Baker Mayfield will be making his playoff debut Sunday night. Who was the last #1 overall quarterback to win their first career playoff game? How about it, Fitz?
You know who it wasn't? It wasn't Jamarcus Russell. I can tell you that much.
Okay.
It still hurts. All right, so this one's tough because I'm not a historian. I'm going to just go with gut instinct on this. I don't think it's Goff, so I'm going to go back further, and the first one that comes to mind is Cam Newton. So I'm going to go with Cam Newton.
Cam was going to be my answer on this one too. So
wow, I'm going to go with Alex Smith because it just popped onto the screen before I could guess. 2011, Alex Smith. How about that? All right, question 2. Next question. Who was the Bears quarterback the last time they won a game at the Superdome? You got an answer right here on this one, Gojo?
Oh, no.
Fitz seems to know it already.
Well, look, I have no idea the answer is, but I can tell you this. As everybody that knows me knows, I have a bunch of toys. Like, I collect toys, right? And so I was going through the house the other day. I only have a few toys left from when I was a child, but one of them was the starting lineup, Jim McMahon, which makes me think of the Super Bowl at the Superdome. So I'm saying McMahon.
I'm going to go with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking Harbaugh on this one.
Let's go!
How about ya? There we
go.
I don't pick Michigan often, but when I do.
Let's go. All right, here we go. Derrick Henry posted the 8th 2,000-yard rushing season in NFL history in 2020, with his 2,027 rushing yards ranking 5th most all-time. Only one player has rushed for 2,000 yards in a season and then won a playoff game. Who is that player? Gojo, you got a guess?
Who was rushed for 2,000 yards in a season and won a playoff game?
I'm going Terrell Davis.
I'm going AP.
No.
Oh, you know what? I'll ride with you on this one, Fitz. There we go. Wow, see him.
Terrell Davis, there we go. 2 out of 3 for me. And yeah, not bad. I'll take that crown. I'll run with it. And here's a trivia question. Who did Fitz catch up with before the big game between the Titans and the Ravens? The answer? Bradley Bozeman from the Baltimore Ravens offensive line.
He's obviously huge, and I love working with linemen. There's just something about me getting to hang out with big guys. Bradley Bozeman of the Baltimore Ravens taking the time to join us. First and foremost, before we get into any football, congratulations. You and your wife have a foundation. It has gotten you the nomination for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. Most significantly to this, you guys have been doing good all over the country. So talk a little bit about your foundation and why this was important to you.
Yeah, so we started back in 2018. We've been going for, about 3 years now. And we started off doing anti-bullying. And so we had talked to a bunch of schools. And before I got drafted, I believe we hit 26 schools in the month of April. So we started there and then kind of moved and branched into Maryland and started reaching out. Then did a cross-country tour where we talked to over 10,000 kids in I think 20 different states. And then once, COVID hit, we kind of had to shift gears. And so when we shifted gears, we turned into food insecurity. We were getting a lot of emails from kids saying, hey, like the only meals we're getting is from our schools. It's going to lunch, going to the early breakfast. Teachers send us home with food. And so we switched to food insecurity. And then the last 4 months, we've done over 1.3 million meals for the Maryland area. So it's just been so amazing. We have such great people here to help us. I mean, my wife, she heads the show. She's the main workhorse. I mean, the nomination goes to her as much as it does to me. So just so blessed to have everyone in our corner that we do.
Now, I'm curious because, it's the Bradley and Nikki Bozeman Foundation. How'd you manage to get your name first? Because, like, my wife always puts her name first.
I think it was just alphabetical. I got that. I think that's the only thing that got that first. But she's definitely the main workhorse in it. I mean, I can't say enough about her. I mean, she busts her butt every single day to make sure this foundation just continues to move forward and progress and be bigger and better than ever.
You played your football at Bama. She played basketball at Bama. And then the two of you get together in an RV and start going across the country. Now, I was a musician for a lot of years on a tour bus. And, man, you get enough years into the tour bus, eventually it gets a little heated. What's it like being in an RV cross country with your wife?
It was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was one of the best trips we've ever taken. I believe we took a month and a half to do the trip, almost 2 months. And it was just great. I mean, we had our systems down. I'd go outside and start packing up. She'd pack up inside. We'd be hooked up, ready to go in 30 minutes, on to the next stop. And it was such a great experience, to be able to go to all these different schools. And, we really thought that it was going to have a problem in California, not knowing who the Ravens were. And, thinking we're going to have to shift our message. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. And really the problems were all the same. All these kids had the same exact problems of bullying. And I mean, it didn't matter. It was all cyber. It was, getting picked on, fighting, you name it. It was just all the same things that we saw school to school, and just such great administration to let us in and to let us into their families, basically. And, we had such an amazing time, and, hopefully we can do it again one day.
So be like a real question here. I grew up a fat kid that played the violin, so I understand the whole like bullying thing, but you're a big guy that played football. Like, why is this a passionate thing for you?
So like I tell the kids, when I was, in 6th grade, I like Augustus Gloop from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's kind of my opening line. So, I mean, that's who I was. I was a teddy bear. I didn't pick on anyone. I didn't pick fights. I was bigger. I mean, in 6th grade, I was 6 foot tall, 260 pounds. But I was a teddy bear, and that opened up the door for a lot of kids to take advantage of that. And then my bullying didn't really end until I kind of started becoming that football player, and becoming the big guy on campus, or whatever you want to say. But a lot of kids don't have that opportunity to move on and to grow into something else. They kind of get stuck in that rut and can't find a way out. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help pull them out of that rut and show them there's someone here that cares.
All right, so talk a little bit about this football season, because at one point we didn't think we were going to get one. The Ravens have had some COVID issues. Everybody was ready to count you guys out. Now you go on a run. You're in the playoffs. Like, what's been the hardest thing about sustaining any sense of normalcy in a COVID year in the NFL?
It's just about getting in a rhythm. I think that's the biggest thing, is getting a rhythm and just, continue to gut it out no matter what happens. You're going to lose players to COVID, just like you lose players to injury. And you just got to next man up, and the next guy has to pick up that slack. And so I think our team has done a great job picking up that slack and moving forward. We had our big outbreak, and after that, I think everyone jumped on board, ready to roll, got going, and we've been on a 4 or 5 game win streak now. We've basically been in the playoffs for 4 or 5 weeks now. So this is another game for us, and we have to continue to have that mindset. So.
Everybody keeps talking about Lamar hasn't won a playoff game. Like, is that real? Does it even come into a conversation in the locker room when you got a guy like the leader, your quarterback, and everybody seems to want to trash the fact that he hasn't had enough playoff success yet?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. This is a team game. This is the ultimate team game. Lamar is an amazing football player, but he can only do so much on his own. We all have to pick up. There's an offense, a defense, and a special teams. So we all have to pick up our end, and make sure that we continue to progress and play well as a team. On offense, we got offensive lineman got to block, receivers got to catch balls. running backs got to run. So it's a team effort for sure. So I mean, I am so glad that Lamar Jackson is my quarterback. So I'm pumped about that. But
is there some heated rivalry now? The Titans beat you guys in the playoffs last year. They beat you earlier this season. Does that kick up something between these two franchises?
A little bit, but in my mind, it's another game. Regardless of who it is that we're going to play this year in the playoffs, we got to win to move on to the next one. So, we're going to continue to work, and we're going to try to put our best out on the field and just let the chips fly. So.
All right, this is airing right before the game, so you can get away with a little trash talk and they won't see it. You want to leave a message for the Titans, anything? How confident you feel good going into this one?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel good in our preparation. I feel good with the way, the attitude that the guys have brought into this game. We're determined that we're going to do something this year. We're determined that we want to be great. So, we've been working all week, busting our butts, in the weight room, on the field, whatever it is, to be able to be in a good position when that clock strikes zero. So.
All right, you guys can check it out, BozemanCharity.com. Super easy to get there, hang out with them. Bradley, we appreciate your time. Man, next time, let me do this inside the locker room. I'll just hang out. We'll do the interview that way.
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Great stuff there from Bradley as you oversee Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. As Fitz mentioned earlier, their first home playoff game since 2008. I think if Fitz at that point was still playing a violin professionally. He had long, shaggy hair. Gojo was you're probably 310 at that point?
Yeah, no, that was a much thicker Mike Golic Jr.
That was a much thicker version of me as well, by the way.
You want a fun fact here. This is only the fourth home playoff game for the Titans since the 2000 season. 3 of those 4 games will have been against the Ravens.
How about that?
So there's your fun fact of the day.
A couple other fun facts for you. This game features the first time the top 2 rushing offenses from the regular season have met in a playoff game since Super Bowl 23. It's been a long time since the number 1 versus number 2 rushing offense have played in a game, a playoff game, I should say, in quite some time. So we were at Bradley Bozeman, I'll ask you, Gojo, and he did what I think a lot of offensive linemen do, because offensive linemen are so humble always. The ultimate team game, which is factually accurate. But don't you think there is something riding on this one for Lamar Jackson, given the fact that when you're a quarterback, we compare you exclusively to other quarterbacks. Now we've got Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl MVP, and a Super Bowl win. Josh Allen got his first playoff win yesterday. Deshaun Watson got a playoff win last year. Don't you think there's a lot riding today for Lamar Jackson?
I think there is and there isn't. Like the notion that a 24-year-old quarterback who's already got an MVP is under any sort of real amount of pressure. But you're right. And if you're Lamar Jackson, you're looking around at your peers saying, these are the guys I measure myself against. Deshaun Watson got dumb paid. He might not be happy, but he's been rewarded for his play in that way. Patrick Mahomes has already lifted the trophy I want to lift. And Josh Allen, that you mentioned, who had a similar playoff gaffe last year in the Bills instance there, where he really underperformed in that spot, was in a similar and got off the schneid. So you're right. In that sense, relative to your peers, which is a thing that matters to these guys, that's big.
But let's not get it twisted. Mike and I remember, Mike, we were in San Francisco getting ready for the national championship game 2 years ago. We were watching Lamar Jackson look awful in his first playoff game. He did not look awful last year. Like, there was a leap forward in his play. I mean, I don't think you can just pinpoint last year's loss on Lamar.
You guys are both. So my thing is that there is a line, though, a fine line, but a line still between needing to see Lamar win a playoff game and understanding there's a lot of pressure surrounding him until he does that, and this being an indictment on him as a franchise quarterback.
Yep.
No, of course the Ravens love Lamar Jackson. We all love Lamar Jackson. The bottom line is that in the same way that we held it against, we talked about Peyton Manning not winning a Super Bowl until he won a Super Bowl. That's just the way it works for quarterbacks. So until Lamar gets his first playoff win, people are going to discuss when will Lamar get his first playoff win.
Mike, shouldn't he be able to have success against this Titans defense given how poorly they played this year?
Yeah. Most anyone should be able to have success against this Titans defense right now. Certainly this attack, but the Titans deserve a lot of the same credit up front. You mentioned that running game that we give the Ravens, a team who lost their starting left tackle in Ronnie Stanley, had Marshall Yanda retire, had a host of injuries there. The Tennessee Titans, Jack Conklin leaves to go to Cleveland this offseason. Taylor Lewan, you lose, the best player on your line, and they have still, especially down the stretch, been able to lead that charge with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it's funny. They're the only team that I've seen run a 2-minute offense where they actually run the football multiple times on that drive. They're incredibly explosive. Maybe the most balanced offense in the playoffs? Maybe. I know there are other teams that are very, very good, but so good through the air, so good on the ground, obviously, with Derrick Henry. This is a team that's certainly taken on the personality of its head coach. The big thing for the Titans today, Fitz, as we get ready to close things up here, is defensively. Can they stop anybody? Because on paper, coming into the season, this defense was supposed to be very good. Now, Jadeveon Clowney is out for the year. They've had other injuries as well, but they cannot stop anybody right now.
Well, and particularly their defense is bad in play-action situations. Go back to their offense quickly, guys. I mean, you talked about Derrick Henry. We all know he's the main part of it, but this offense also gets massive chunk yardage plays. Mike, you think they can have success against Baltimore's defense?
I think they can, and they need to early. That was the secret to success for last year that people kind of glossed over. It was Derrick Henry, this and that. No, it was they went deep early and often last year with Tannehill, A.J. Brown in this offense, and it allowed them to be able to run to kill it off later. And so it's got to be a similar formula, I think, against the Ravens defense that's also suffered attrition this year.
Game picks time. Let's pick the game before we say goodbye. Give me, you know what? I think I'm going to go contrarian, so you go first, Fitz.
All right, I'm rooting for the Titans, but I think the Ravens are going to win, so I'm going Baltimore.
I'm going Baltimore on this one as well. Lamar Jackson finally gets off the snide.
Revis Island, Cayman Islands, the Hawaiian Islands, the Yates Island. Give me the Tennessee Titans to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I flip-flopped like 4 times this week. I landed on the Titans for my final pick. Tennessee Titans, tighten up, baby.
Either way, this should be a heck of a game. Obviously, you guys can stick around right here in the ESPN app. That's an easy way to watch it. Authenticate it, hang out, watch it on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus. We got MegaCast going everywhere. He's Mike Golic Jr. He's Field Yates. I'm Jason Fitz. Thank you so much for watching the Playoff Tailgate delivered by Pizza Hut. We appreciate you.